and there's a community there, and they're looking for someone to lead a farbrengen, which means, for those who don't know what a farbrengen is, it's a spiritual gathering where you get together and you sing songs, and then someone speaks and he inspires everyone and shares ideas, and people say l'chaim, and they get, it's an uplifting experience. You are listening to the JP Show,
where we discuss the issues you care about from a Jewish perspective.
I am Rabbi G.
And I am Rabbi Levi.
And we hope you enjoy this episode. So welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the JP Show after a bit of a break, the Pesach break. Rabbi Levi, how was your Pesach in Melbourne?
Pesach, I was in Melbourne. It was great. It was good family time, a little bit of a break. It was good.
Do they keep Pesach the same way in Melbourne as they do in Sydney?
Yeah, everyone has their own unique flavors especially when it comes to the Seder. Every family has their own unique customs, unique tunes. It's one of the things, you have to get used to when you get married. It's interesting. Like, you join a different family. You join them for the Seder. It's not a bad thing, but it's just, it's different.
That's interesting.
But it was very beautiful. It was nice.
Fantastic. Well, we missed you here in Sydney. It was extra work for me. But that's okay. Very happy you were able to go, join family. So, Pesach was very busy leading up to Pesach. Pesach itself is busy, of course. It's high season, as they call it, in the rabbinic field. After Pesach, it was like we had to get ready for the new term. So we're recording this episode on Wednesday. We normally record on Monday. So this past Monday, I was in Melbourne. I went down to do some teacher training. And then we didn't do it yesterday, and we're doing it today. And the reason we didn't do it yesterday, we're going to be open with everyone, is we couldn't think of a topic.
Yeah, I guess we were a little out of things.
As it takes time to get back, and we just couldn't think of a topic, so we didn't prepare, we didn't record. And then it came today, and we still didn't think of a topic. So I figured we're going to talk about not thinking of a topic. And
sounds like a good topic.
And I'll tell you why, because it reminded me of two things, and one thing is about not knowing what to say, the other one is about not saying you don't know, like if you don't know something or whatever. But it reminded me of a little story, so if I can just share the story quickly. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe had a secretary. His name was Rabbi Cheskel Fagan. And he was a very learned Jew, a very pious Jew, a very pious chassid. But he was very busy. When he was working for the previous Rebbe, he was very busy. There was a lot of communal stuff to be done, a lot of work that needed to be done for the Rebbe and so on. And one time the previous Rebbe called him and he told him he needs to travel to another town. And there's a community there, and they're looking for someone to lead a farbrengen, which means, for those who don't know what a farbrengen is, it's a spiritual gathering where you get together and you sing songs, and then someone speaks and he inspires everyone and shares ideas, and people say l'chaim, and they get, it's an uplifting experience if it's done properly. And he really didn't want to go because he wasn't prepared. He said he never leads a farbrengen unless he's fully prepared and he knows what he's going to say, even though I'm sure he had what to say because he's very learned and everything. And but the previous Rebbe, his boss, so to speak, told him he's got to go, so he went. And they're all very excited in the town, so they sat down to this farbrengen, and there was a whole bunch of people. And they said l'chaim, and he said, okay, sing a nigun. So they sang a nigun, and then they're all waiting for him to open up his mouth and to talk, and he doesn't. And then he says, sing another nigun. And that's what they did. They said l'chaim and sang another song, and sang another song, and said more l'chaim and said another song, and this went on for a few hours. Until it was time to end the farbrengen, and he hadn't said anything. So at last he opens up his mouth and he says the following. He says, I think it must be that the previous Rebbe sent me to tell you the following, to teach you the following lesson. That if you haven't fully thought about something, and you haven't done enough learning, and you aren't fully prepared, you shouldn't say anything.
Right.
And with that, he ended the farbrengen.
That was the message.
That was the message. So first of all, what do you think about that? Like, do we always have to have a topic to think about? Is it like?
So I think also another part of his message was almost like a rebuke to himself. Like, why don't I have something to say, right? So both things are true. I think people shouldn't just speak for the sake of speaking. I think that's, if someone doesn't have what to say, they shouldn't say anything. I think that's definitely, and that's true in many areas in life. I know you always talk about this, like when people come to visit people for like a shiva call. And like, you don't have what to say, you don't know what to say, so you start saying ridiculous things. Probably better not say anything, right? Just to be
to be there.
To be there, to be quiet. But I think it's true in every situation. If you don't have what to say, don't just get up there and give a speech because you have to. All right.
So you're raising a very interesting issue, actually, because that's a different context of speaking. So you go visit someone who's sick, or you go visit someone who's grieving. So you're right. If you don't know what to say, don't say anything. But then there's people who need to speak. So let's say we give shiurim, or sometimes we can go to a place and they say, "Oh, we'll ask you to say a dvar Torah."
So there, I think, comes the second message that we always should have someone who's involved in something should always have something to share about it, right? So if we're learning, if we're involved in Jewish life, and learning more and going deeper, we should always feel that responsibility to have something to say.
So what you're saying is we should always be prepared.
Correct.
So if we're going to visit a shul or something, we should always be prepared just in case.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think
it happened to me in Melbourne. Actually, I was in a shul in Melbourne. I was on holidays, so to speak. Right. I wasn't working, and I went on the seventh night of on the 8th night of Pesach to shul, and the rabbi said, "Oh, we have a guest from Sydney. Would you like to say something?"
Were you prepared?
I was actually. I did have something to say.
So I think that's really good, because I think that there's two things that come together here. On the one hand, you can't just say, I'm on holiday and I'm not going to say anything. That's not. I mean, you could take a break once in a while, but I'm saying, our job is to inspire, to share, and I think everyone's job is to share and inspire, and so we are communicators. But I think worse than not saying anything is to say something when you're not prepared.
Correct.
And just to waffle. I think it's disrespectful to people, because you can tell. You can tell right away.
Yeah.
And everyone will tell. We'll tell if you're prepared or you're not prepared, right?
Yeah.
So
like you always say, sometimes people get up there giving a speech, and I was like, oh, what was the topic I was supposed to speak about tonight or something? They think they're making a joke, but it's actually a very disrespectful statement.
Yeah, and I hate that when people do that. So what's the topic tonight? As if they're looking at the fly kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
No, because and I think it doesn't matter, by the way, even if you I find, even if it's a topic that I've spoken about before, I think when you go to, you have to prepare. You have to always be prepared. I think that's really important. But let me ask you something else. So related to that, right? You're not always prepared. For example, someone calls you up, as they do. Someone's called me up. I know they call you up, and they ask you a question. Let's say you don't know the answer. What's your reaction?
Well, you could say, I don't know, and I have to look it up, and I have to look into it. So either you look into it yourself, or if it's a question which is beyond you, it's also a greatness to know what you can answer and what you can't answer. Someone recently asked me a very complicated question, which dealt with halachic question, and it dealt with an extremely, if I would get this one wrong, the person could be transgressing something huge. And I just felt like it was beyond me, and even if I would look into it, I couldn't take that responsibility on my shoulders. So I actually contacted a more leading halachic authority and gave them their answer. And I told that person, I told them, this is not coming from me. I felt it was beyond me, and I think that's fine.
And I'm sure the person respected that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So I think it's a really important lesson, that, because there are many things in life that sound like a weakness, but they're actually a strength.
Mm.
So one could say, if you're supposed to be in a position of, or any, it doesn't have to be a rabbi, anyone who's in some sort of position, could be a doctor.
Mm.
I remember, can I tell you an interesting little story? I remember, I don't mind saying his name, I'm sure, he's passed away, unfortunately. But when we first came to this country, we had an amazing doctor. His name was Dr. Bloom.
Mm. He was my moil.
Yeah, he was your moil also, that's right, he was a moil. And he was a genius of a doctor. His power of diagnosis was unbelievable. And I remember he was a very calm guy, and he always took his time, I remember.
Yeah, I remember him well.
And I remember when your older sister, Mushki, was very, very, very young, she suddenly was having problems. I don't know what it was. She lost her voice, and she was breathing a bit heavy and stuff like that. And he came over on Friday afternoon, and he examined her, and he was always spot on. He was amazing. And he said, I think it's, I don't know, he said some name of something, but he said, you know what, I'm actually not 1,000% sure. I'm going to call a pediatrician on the spot in the old-fashioned telephone books. He looked up his number, and it actually wasn't that, because the guy explained to him over the phone why it couldn't be that, for whatever reason, because there's one symptom that meant it wasn't that particular disease or whatever, and he thought it was something else, and he gave him medication, and he put down the phone, and he was so excited. He says, I learned something today.
Right. And
that's when I understood why he was such a good doctor.
Yeah.
Because he never ever arrived. Like, I think that's such an important thing. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. Every rabbi has to have a rabbi. Every doctor has to have a doctor that's senior, right? We all have to keep learning, and we never know everything.
And I think it's especially true today because there's so much information out there, and we do have access to a lot of information, not in Judaism, but not only in Judaism, in everything. Anyone can search anything. And because of that, I think there's a certain almost arrogance that takes place nowadays, that everyone thinks they know everything about everything. Right. and it's not true, right? Right? We have to sometimes realize that we actually don't know everything. That certain topics you can't just read an article about. You have to actually... And that's true especially in Judaism. You can't just read a Facebook post and become a halachic authority. On certain
You have to know, you have to have experience, you have to see where the context, you have to learn from others how they answer the question.
Yeah.
And same thing's true with doctors and any other profession, really, right? So I think that's really important. Saying you don't know, like he wasn't embarrassed at all to say, look, I'm not 100% sure about this one. I'm gonna ask. And I saw it as a greatness. I saw it as a really wow. That's why he's a good doctor. And I think that's the way it truly is. So it's okay you say I don't know, but I think what's not okay is not to care. So like you said, you say I don't know, but I will get back to you. Or I will ask someone, or it's really beyond me, and let me refer you to someone else. And if you have an issue getting through, call me back or whatever. Yeah. To stay in touch, but it's okay. And we should never have that weakness. So we should always be prepared, which we weren't yesterday, which is fine. We're admitting that.
That's right.
And we're still not today for some reason. I think it's just been so hectic over Pesach. We haven't. But maybe, actually, I'm just thinking maybe we should use this opportunity to ask people who are listening to help us out.
Correct.
Send in some topics.
Yeah.
Nothing's off the table, almost nothing at least.
That's right.
I don't want to promise everything.
Besides for politics, we don't get political.
No, we don't get political, but any question, anything, any topic you want discussed, send us an email or contact us and let us know, and we'll try to use it, because it's hard to come up with creative topics or engaging topics, interesting topics. But for now, we just wanted to talk about not knowing. So we admit we didn't know this, and we talked about so at least we found something to talk about it's okay sometimes to say I'm not prepared, or I don't know, or to remind ourselves that we should be more prepared next time.
Excellent.
Have a good day, everyone. See you next week.